What's up, GT gang? Welcome back to my third race, this one being in Fuji International Speedway. Now, this is my first time racing on this track, so there's a lot to learn here. I managed to qualify with the Supra with 141.9, if I'm correct. And yeah, we are set up for a nice race here. And here we go. Heading down to turn one, trying to get the slipstream out of the South African player. And this is where the first chaos starts. I totally misjudged the turn one, and I end up bumping into both of those cars. And I go through. Now doing this turn four, I'm visibly struggling with turning the car. But the Lamborghini just caught up with me, and fair enough, I pushed him on turn one, so it's only fair that I let him go on this one. Coming to turn 10, I try to brake as easy as I can, try to nail the apex, try to babysit the turns here and see if I don't lose too much more time. Now here in turn 14, this was the turn that I was struggling the most, as you can see, with a lot of understeering, as well in turn 16 here. Here also putting my foot in the gas way too early. And now down the straight, nothing pretty much is going to change, it's just a long straight. Coming again, turn one. I think here I'm braking a little bit too early, which makes me stop way before the apex, so makes me lose a little bit of time. Coming here into turn three, I do manage to hit the apex quite well, doing the best out of the track limits, but yet again turn 4, this long right-handed, just struggling a little bit. You can hear the tires screaming, and here I managed to catch up a little bit, but my braking is literally not that great, so I just let these guys to run away from me. Coming into turn 10, I do manage to nail the braking, which is quite good, and I managed to catch up with these guys. Now, the Ukrainian driver bumps this British driver out of the track, which then comes back at me. But all good in here. I have no damage, so I just move on, and we have P4 at the moment. Yet again, turn 14 with a lot of... turn 15 with a lot of understeering. And turn 16, I do actually manage to pull it quite well. Third lap, turn 1, here we go again. This time I managed to not brake too early, but then yet again more understeering, which throws me out of the track. But I managed to keep going with not much loss of time. However, as you'll be able to see on the radar, I already have the British player again coming back at me. Turn 4 still going on, but the British driver just manages to catch up and get it on the inside line, which is fair enough for him. So here just bump draft him a little bit. Now it's going to be a drag race all the way to turn 10. In here, I'll try to get myself the inside line, but then the ghosting system just does its thing and just let us both go. So we're currently at P5. We'll take that for the time being. So here, trying to nail turn 13, which was not done too bad, and turn 14. Here I'm forced to brake, so kind of helps me doing the turn correctly. The good thing is that South African player went just off-road, which puts us back in P4, which is good news. Now, by the fourth lap, coming to turn 1, the South African driver that just went off-road just manages to catch up and go take the inside line, which is fair enough for him. And now, heading towards turn 10, this is becoming one of my favorites. South African players just go a little bit deep. We make contact, but the ghosting system also help us to go a little bit through. We have a second contact, but at that time I'm already on the racing line, so the South African player just backs off a little bit. In here, I already have some damage. And I believe that's the reason why I go out. So here, taking the turn 16 the most careful I can. And then I'm set off to start the final lap of this race. Now, the South African player does manage to get to 1.2 seconds, down a little bit to 9/10. Here I'm trying to try to have a clean lap, and then ultimately it starts to lose a little bit of ground, back to 1 second, and then turn 10, which has become one of my favorites. I gain a little bit. Then on this sequence of turns, it's just like where the South African player just gets down to 6/10, but ultimately there was no response. I was already too far ahead, which means that in my third race, I got a P4. Now, I did have the feeling that the Supra was slowing me down a little bit, so I decided to do another quali, but this time with a Huracan of the same group, and decide to improve my time to see if I can get a little bit closer to the front of the grid. So coming into turn 1, I tried to pick my braking point, which is definitely not the 200 board mark. I go off track, get a little bit too trigger happy, and I find myself on the grass, which is an absolute disappointment. But anyway, I still complete the lap just to get used to the car. I do manage to get a 150, which is obviously far from ideal. By the end of the lap 2, I do manage to improve just a little bit, around 50 hundredths. By the end of lap 3, I go yet a little bit quicker, by roughly 6/10, which is a good improvement. On lap 4, I do lose a little bit of time. And the same is going to happen for lap 5. And the same for lap 6. So I'll just call it a day. So now with a little bit more experience, and now with the Huracan, which is stronger for this track, I'm now in P5. And it's going to put me in a good position for a very interesting race, to say the least. So coming to turn 1, I try to get out of trouble, but then this guy in the Huracan almost assassinates me. But gladly, the ghosting system is doing its thing and just keeping us in the race. I have this Turkish driver, Iceman, in front of me, which is gonna be my friend for the next couple of laps. Coming to turn 6, I try to get the best angle possible. although losing a little bit of time here. But then the guy in P3 has a big moment, which is gonna help us get a P4. Now, coming to my favorite turn 10, I have a guy behind me, and he just like sends it like if there was no tomorrow. And the ghosting system, once again, helping us on track. Now, turn 13, turn 14, I get just a slightly closer. And then on turn 16, our Turkish friend does a much more narrow line, which just causes me to bump into him and giving a little bit of a bunt draft on the long straight, which is far from ideal. And here in turn 1, again, trying to keep the turn, try to be as neat as possible, almost catching up with Iceman. Now on the slipstream, and here catching up yet a little bit more. I get the wheels on the grass, which makes me lose a little bit of traction. And in turn 6, I do this absolute travesty. Although arguably he turned into me, so he sort of spun it on himself. But I think there was a second contact which pretty much put him facing forwards, which was not too bad. So currently sat in P3, 1 second from Iceman, and about to start lap number 3. Ironically though, I just set the fastest lap of the race here. Now, for the majority of the lap 3, there's not much going on, so we're just going to speed up this a little bit further. And it's going to be in turn, you guessed it, 10, where things are about to heat up a little bit more. So the two guys in front start to have a little bit of a fight. So I try to keep my composure and try to nurture and to turn 13, 14 and 15 the best I can, which I do manage to do that because I'm almost on the rear of the British driver, and this is even more evident in turn 16. I can get on the power way sooner, and I take a little bit of an evasion action so that I don't bump into the rear of him. Now, the British driver gets a 0.5 second penalty, which is good news for us. But the Nissan has so much straight line speed that I can merely just go almost side by side. And then into turn 1, I try to overbrake him. He tries to run me out of the track. And then at this point, I just managed to crash. So all that hard work to be thrown down the gutter in lap 4. So currently I'm sat in P8 and actually P9. So at this point, show must go on and we're just going to complete the race. Although in the same lap, around turn 13, I do manage to catch up very quickly. And there's some interesting things going on here. I do take P8 back from the Italian guy. Iceman goes a little bit wide. The Italian driver barges me off the track. I try to get yet again on the slipstream of Iceman, which goes defensive towards turn 1. And then here Iceman decides to outbrake himself, goes off track. I do the switcheroo on the Italian driver, and this battle is gonna keep going for the next couple of corners. And then on turn 6 I go on the inside and I take P7 from his hands. From this point on, there's not much more going on. The Italian driver is roughly half a second behind me, and I pretty much nailed this last sector, and there's no response from behind, so we just finished this race in P7, which was a good outcome based on the fact that I spun on turn 1. Now, I wasn't quite happy with the results, so I decided to improve my quali times even more. So I go for the second quali session, and right off the bat on the first lap, I managed to improve a handful of hundredths of a second. On the second lap, I managed to go even quicker by 9/10 of a second. And at this point, I'm just not gonna have enough time to do another lap, so I'm happy as it is right now. Coming to race number 3, I decided this is redemption time. Now I'm sat in pole position after that improvement in quali, so it's about time to mitigate all the damage done. So, starting the first lap, I do have a good launch. I have the Spanish driver right behind me, and coming turn 1, I do pick my braking point. I do have really nice rotation. And then coming turn 3, no problems here. Same for turn 4 and turn 5. Coming turn 6, I can see the Spanish driver is going to try his luck. We make contact, but it's just not enough to put me off my racing line. And then, my friends, this is a matter of trying to disappear into the distance and not see these guys ever again. By the end of lap 1, I am 8/10 ahead of the Spanish driver. By the end of lap 2, I am 1.2 seconds ahead of P2. By the end of the lap 3, I am already at 4.2 seconds ahead of the Spanish driver. By the end of lap 4, I do end up losing a couple of seconds to P2, although I still maintain the fastest lap of the race, which I'm going to maintain all the way up to the last lap of the race. So this is pretty much proof that with hard work and practice, we can win pretty much any race. And so here we go. My win with pole position, fastest lap, and clean race bonus. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you in the next one.